morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you thirsty bunch of beer drinkers, whenever and wherever you're tuning in from. It's a great day for a few fresh GLB beers. Big thanks for pressing play on this episode of Between Two Fermenters, a podcast brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery. Today on the podcast, we're talking tap rooms and retail stores, the new heartbeat of a brewery. Tap rooms and beer to go from breweries continue to drive growth in the craft brewing industry, 9% across the board in the U.S. in 2022. In the BA, that's the Brewers Association in the U.S., they define a tap room as a brewery that sells more than 25% of their volume on site. And that's something that we almost do at Great Lakes, but it's a significant piece of our business model. Like George Orwell's famous piece, The Moon Underwater, in which he describes the perfect pub and how community is a big part of it, tap rooms have become the third place for many folks. Not to say bar and restaurant sales aren't as big as they were, but more and more people are venturing out to their local craft breweries, having games and trivia nights, family-friendly games on the yards. Great Lakes, we have the cornhole toss, and we have another number of other things that get families out to the brewery. Charity and community partnerships, supporting local has always been a big thing for us at Great Lakes, and that the tap room and the patio just brings people to us, and it has really become a community hub over the years. The title of this episode is $5 pours. That's because you can get a nice fresh pour of Great Lakes for $5 or $6 at the retail store, and you never know who you're going to be drinking besides. It could be our guest today, Nick Densmore, or it could be Mike Lackey. It could be Peter Bullitt, the owner of Great Lakes. You never know who's going to be sitting beside you at the bar. And it also allows you to try new things. It's a playground for the brewers. They come out with new styles, new innovations, and the first place you're going to get to try them is at a brewery for a good value, and then give the feedback right to the brewery so that the brewers know, hey, this is a hit, or nope, we got some more work to do. So today, we're going to talk about that, all things taproom and retail store related from a GLB perspective. I'll be joined by Nick Densmore, Experiences Manager with the brewery, who heads up the team that creates our welcoming environment for customers new and old. And, I asked Nick for a bio. Hey, welcome, Nick.
Hey, welcome to me as well.
I asked Nick for a bio, and he gave us the most comprehensive bio of all the guests we've had so far to date. So I'm excited to read this.
I'm a wordsmith.
He calls himself a jack of all trades, which he is, in fairness. Nick is a jack of all trades who has been at GLB for almost 7 years now. Nick is responsible for a lot of the direct-to-consumer experience that GLB has to offer, and is frequently caught saying that he's thankful he gets to wear a lot of hats because he's been losing his hair at a rapid pace.
It's true.
Who's more bald, me or you? I think
it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah, from the Etobicoke tap room to our offsite events, from the home delivery platform to that iconic Octopus Wants to Fight t-shirt that your partner bought for you for Christmas 5 years ago. And Nick has an involvement in all that good stuff. So Nick, let's crack a nut, buckle up, and get on with the show. Yeah, crack it. There you go. And in fairness to the dear listeners, you're not actually drinking a Canuck Pale Ale. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Burst today. I think this is a bit of a crossing point with the two of us, because I remember when Troy brought me in for the onboarding tour almost 7 years ago. Troy had the famous line that Canuck was the staff beer of choice, and he said, if any of our staff were to go give blood, they'd have to pull a pint of Canuck out first before they get to the blood, which is just funny because I think it's interesting in the tap room to see the trends with the staff, because we do have a lot of staff hanging out, consuming. Burst is kind of picking up with that, and that's just fun to see how trends change and stuff. So I'm drinking a Burst today. It's lower ABV. I still got to go back to the office and do my due there. So
it's great that you remember that line, because it was one of the best lines ever. Humble.
Put it on the tombstone, buddy.
Okay, we're going to get into this, Nick, but first, a word from our sponsors, Toronto Festival of Beer.
Toronto's Festival of Beer returns to Bandshell Park at Exhibition Place between July 26th and 28th. Come to TFOB and enjoy the best of beer and beverage, showcasing over 400 varieties of products, the best of bites, eats, treats, and more. And the best beats on the Bandshell stage, including headliners Cypress Hill, Josh Ross, Taking Back Sunday, all rocking the Bandshell stage. Don't judge, just enjoy. TFOB, July 26th to 28th. Tickets available at beerfestival.ca.
Okay, so yeah, everyone that's listening, go buy some tickets to Toronto's Festival of Beer. We've been longtime partners with them. We've been there every year. We do a lot of crazy things, and we're excited to get back there this year. Coming up in May, we're actually going to talk to Les Murray, the president of TFOB, and I know he's going to have a lot of tickets to give away to listeners, so stay tuned for that. But let's get back to Nick Densmore. Nick, give us a little history on the story and the history of the brewery retail store.
Yeah, that's great. I think the GLB Taproom has seen a lot of evolution over the years. I mean, we've been around. I mean, I call us a heritage brand in all the best ways. But the fun thing about the retail store in Etobicoke is that it really wasn't a retail store for our first 10 years there. From 1990 to 2000, it was literally just a place for local licensees to come in and kind of place their orders. And it wasn't until 2000 where we kind of explored into on-premise retail. And that was a really important time for us because it started to allow for that, direct from consumer feedback. I can only imagine how it was back in the day because I was a wee lad, but I presume back in the day it was more about what's the beer and what's the price. But the moment you get into the years where you can bring your direct consumers in there, you get a lot more feedback coming, I imagine.
Yeah, in the year 2000, it started off with Great Lakes Lager that had become Golden Horseshoe Premium Lager. So it was Golden Horseshoe Premium Lager and Red Leaf. So we had two brands in the store, essentially, in 341 ml bottles. And the tap situation, there was no by the glass licensing. So you could offer some samples, but no one could go in and have a full glass like you can now.
Sure. And I wanted to actually ask this from you while I had you on the air, of course. Golden Horseshoe Lager. Okay. Now, does this predate the Woodbine Racetrack partnership or post-date? Was this we want to get them as a partner?
This was in conjunction in that, yeah. So that's a good trivia fact we should use one day, that Great Lakes had a big involvement with Woodbine Racetracks and a lot of the horses back in the day. But yeah, fast forward to 2010, 2012, we got that By the Glass license and things started to evolve. You came in, like you said, 7 years ago, and we had made some changes before that time, but you've really witnessed and been part of that changing of the retail store and tap room. So over the 7 years, kind of walk us through all the changes you've helped make.
So, I mean, I'm not taking credit for any of it. I think that a lot of it doesn't exist without the, the community showing up. It's a bit of a thing where, especially when you don't know how things are going to roll, you stick your neck out, you take some risks, you spend some money, and you're kind of crossing your fingers and hoping that the folks show up. We've been fortunate enough in Etobicoke that not a lot of our risks go punished, which is wonderful. When I started, it was 5 taps and 4 bar stools, and you can imagine if you've been at the tap room on a Friday and seen all the staff hanging out, you can imagine how many staff butts were in those seats back then. But through my duration there, we started investing more in keeping people on premise. Again, kind of building that community space. I think that at that point in time, it's hard to measure, but you really when you start to invest in bringing people in and having them stay, you really start to also empower your staff to, learn the tricks of the trade, become more CSR product experts and less, cash out folk at your local LCBO, not to knock the LCBO. It was all about taking risks and feeling warm and fuzzy when the community showed up.
But you're going on about the customer and the staff and how that's changed. The physical footprint, though, you said 5 taps, 4 bar stools. We had to expand to allow more people to come because we were creating that community hub. So now, what do we have now? Like it's been through a couple transitions, but what do we have now?
So right now, we through COVID, we were actually able to kind of reimagine the space. Right now, we have an indoor footprint that seats about 25, 26 people. We have a vastly upgraded draft system that is pouring 16 taps. We have a really lovely, spacious patio out front that, again, will seat 34 in the summer. And then something that kind of changed through COVID was that there was a bit of some legislation that kind of allowed us to expand to a lot more of our footprint, which was nice. So now you will find us maximizing the lawn, trying to draw a more casual audience to the brewery. You mentioned earlier, folks with kids, you know, they need to be able to run around. They're not necessarily the kinds of humans that are good
in a
sitting in their assigned seat. So you got kids, so I'm sure you know a lot about that. But yeah, it's about creating an environment that caters to all. We went through a period of time where we had food on offer, and we're kind of slowly bringing that back in a metered way. But yeah, it's been a tap room in flux over the last 7 years, and that's the way I like it. So.
And then the retail store, we 3 fridges full of beer. You can buy singles, mix and match, or cases. So maybe just walk the listeners through a little bit about what the retail store has been like at GLB over your tenure. Yeah,
for sure. So when I started, it was a lot of, we did the self-serve fridge model, and I think a lot of breweries were doing that. And we kind of made the conscious effort to change that when we came out of COVID. Partially because we had to. When peak COVID was happening, we kind of set up our retail bar in front of the big garage door there so we could serve people while they were outside. And then when we moved inside, we decided to keep those fridges for singles and whatnot behind the bar. It's a small change, but it's a bit of a behavioral science thing where you get 2 benefits. You get the benefit of a staff that, again, is empowered to be exercising their social skills and product knowledge. But you also get the opportunity to engage with your guests at a time where all of us, I think, we're kind of learning how to re-socialize with the world. So, you know, whether you wanted to have a long-winded conversation with, you know, the retail store staff, where you just a simple hello would fill your cup. We kind of were able to, you know, edge people back into a social environment. And especially, it's hard to think of peak COVID, but like, you know, a lot of the times that's the only person that they're talking to that day. And that's just, it's wild to think of. So bringing the beer behind the shelves or behind the bar was just amazing to see the life kind of come back to the tap room. So yeah, as Troy, as you mentioned, like it's the single cans, mix and match, full cases at a discount. But like, to be honest with you, retail is so much more than what you take out the door. It's what you get on the way. So, yeah, we've tried our best to build that.
I really do think that that exchange, someone coming in either for the first time or coming in saying, "Oh, I saw on social that we have a new beer. Can I try it?" There's now a conversation. There's a piece to that was missing before. Someone tries the beer, they might go, you know what, I'm going to sit down and have an actual drink. And then the next thing you know, back to the Orson Welles piece, they're talking to someone else at the tap room now, and that creates a connection. That creates a connection with the community. Also creates a connection with the staff, and then people come back and they're going to tell their friends and folks about it. Now we're going to move over slightly to your job, because you have a fancy title, experiences manager. And I know a lot of folks at the brewery, when we started calling people experiences people, what is that? And what is your job really?
I think you can thank yourself for that job title, because as I recall correctly, I basically just went to you one day and said, my job title doesn't really make a lot of sense. And you said, well, figure it out then, come up with one. And so we see this wave of experiences titles. And to me, the one thing I think of is, like, whether you know it or not, every time you enter a space or interact with another individual, you're left with an impression. That's something that you don't really track on your radar every day, but something that exists. My role is essentially to ensure that when someone who doesn't work for our company interacts with our space, with our people, with our brand, our merchandise, that the lasting impression is one that echoes our core values, which we spent a lot of time kind of crafting coming out of COVID as well. You know, when it comes down to, you know, I call it nuts, bolts, and deliverables. I mean, I manage and oversee a number of departments: the Etobicoke Tap Room, the home delivery platform, internal events in the Etobicoke location, and external events out across the province. I hire for all those platforms, as well as onboard a lot of the staff with our, you know, history knowledge for the brewery. I handle our merchandise. I work with Fabian, who you may have heard on an episode prior on that.
I think he used to work at the Only Cafe.
Did he?
On the Dan
yeah, I'm sure he's trying to put that on a t-shirt next week. I think that I also work with the Brewpub, basically on an inventory basis, basically just to ensure that their fridges and draft lines are full of fresh GLB to get out.
It doesn't sound like we've given you enough to do. So when we get back today, let's sit down and see what else we can put on your plate.
I don't like sitting.
So no, how many steps do you get in a day? That should be on the rapid fire question.
I think you and I would always have this conversation because I'm a nervous individual. I like to walk. So I don't get in near as much as I used to. I think it's probably in around the 15 to 20,000. But when I was
every day,
when I was more taproom focused, there would be days with 45,000 steps. Again, a lot of nervous energy. And you'll hear that. We're going to talk a little bit about it later, but just, I like to keep busy.
So what have you noticed 7 years at Great Lakes? Like, tell us about your time with the company and some of the things you've noticed in the industry and the changes that have come, or both good and bad.
I think it's interesting because when I started, it was our 30th anniversary. So
that was a busy year.
It was a busy year, but I didn't know anything about it. And I'll be frank, I think I tell this funny story to people because when I started at the brewery, I remember sitting across, an interview table with our then retail manager and external events manager. And I remember them talking to me and asking me questions. And I said, you know what, guys, I got to be honest with you. I've never poured a beer in my life. Like, I don't know.
I don't know how you got hired,
I don't know what I'm in here for. And they say, oh, you'll be fine. And I say, I gotta be honest. Like, I've never handled money for a job. So they're like, you'll be fine. You'll figure it out. But I was kind of at a point in time in my life where I'd kind of gotten into a career and it wasn't really going at as aggressive a rate I'd like to get onto. So as I just mentioned, I don't like to stay stagnant very long. So, for somebody who was eager to learn and eager to progress, coming in that year where we released 120 beers plus, like, for somebody that was willing and able to apply themselves, it was a really great year to come in and get immersed. So from there, I just started, honestly, my first gig was mostly just out and about at events across Ontario, trying to put our beer in people's hands and trying to get them to smile about it. And then that kind of graduated into some time on the sales team, the licensee sales team. So I spent a few months there helping out.
That's right. It's sometimes something I look past. You were a sales scout. Was that the role you were in?
Again, another role that we just kind of created. So my job was sales scout. Over my time, maybe it's maturing, maybe I've just gotten more nerdy, but I've gotten a lot more data driven. So obviously bar and restaurant sales reps, or licensee reps, as you may know them to be called, like, it's a lot of soft skill. It's a lot of interacting with different people in different situations. But I just saw that there was this big, opportunity to become a little bit more analytical about how we approach our licensee partnerships. And so I made the pitch to kind of come on as a sales scout, which was more about harvesting information from the variety of Toronto accounts. We started with kind of West End. I was building out maps of every licensee establishment in, not everyone had a relationship with, everyone, that
had a license,
every possible account, and kind of color coding those and leaving notes and kind of feeding that to the sales reps to, help them along their way. Kind of graduated to picking up a lot of my accounts naturally that way. Some that still exist to this day. But Troy may mention that there's a clause now in our job offer contracts that basically you cannot apply for any other internal job until a year into service, and
we might be a little loose with that, but
maybe you can go into that because that was probably your sticky paws all over that one.
It could have been the situation with you. It could have been going from retail events to scout, then going, oh, wait a second, I want to go into retail store management. But I can't remember how that came to be. That was not my call. But you ended up, there was a vacancy in the retail store management job at the time. That's what it was called. You applied, and here you are.
Yeah. Grateful, obviously, to be here. And then obviously my time with GLB after that, like, we can get into it. We're going to talk about it, I think, down the road, but like, it my job has changed a lot. I don't like sitting still. I don't like stalling. So, so we kind of, my job's evolved with the years, but that's kind of where it started. And that was, I guess, the origin story, if you want to call it that. But, all that to say, hard work pays off. I tell every staff I hire that, if you want to get down and get somewhere in an industry, like, I can be a pretty key example as to how you do that.
We've been pretty good with that. If you put in the work, you have fun, you're a good team player. We have had a lot of people go through the brewery over the years that have started, it doesn't matter where they start, but they go to where they want to go. So we've had a lot of people that have started in the tap room or home delivery who are now sales reps, whether it be a licensee side of things or the retail side, LCBO, grocery, etc. We've had some start in the retail store and go into a brewing career. We've had many people leave Great Lakes after a few years of getting their feet wet to go out and lead breweries and across the province and even in Alberta and Nova Scotia. So something to be proud of. And
sure, yeah, it's funny because I brag about it to people as early as like hiring phase, as early as interview phase, that I manage a pretty rotating staff of individuals. I have a high turnover rate and I brag about that. And they always look at me so weird. And I say, you know what? I want people to be doing what they want to be doing and to be excited about what they do every single day. For a lot of people, that means like growing up and moving on. And that's cool. I get excited about that. I also get excited about bringing other people in and, fresh blood and passion for an industry and passion for a role. I think we all can kind of relate to that, like first day or first week on a job where we want to be there. It's, if you could bottle that and sell it, like it's amazing to have, that kind of energy. And, I brag about the fact that we move people in around the company or in around the industry. I think that there's something to be said for providing that like grassroots on the ground education.
Before we get into your vision from an experiences perspective and then some home delivery questions, how'd you get the job? Really? You couldn't pour a beer. You never handled money. How did you get the job? How'd you?
You're just baiting me because you wanted me to say that I used to work in radio. So I used to work in radio. I won't say which.
No way.
I won't say which station because that's what you're baiting me for. But there was a long line of people at the brewery that worked for this same radio station.
That we were hiring Indy 88 people left, right, and center.
Your word's not mine. Again, we're looking for sponsorship here on episode 4. But I think I was generation 3 of ex-Indy 88 employees at the brewery, some of which still exist to this day. So somebody brought somebody in somebody left Indy 88.
This is very cryptic.
Somebody left Indy 88, came to Great Lakes. Then they brought one Indy 88 person in behind them. Then that person brought me in behind them. I brought someone else in behind me.
It was a pyramid scheme.
And it ended there, I think. I think so. I cut my teeth doing a lot of like on the ground guerrilla style marketing and promotions. I spent my days at Indy 88 just going to shows, taking photos and talking to people. Again, I think a lot of the hard skills, I talk to a lot of people that I end up bringing onto staff. Like a lot of that hard skill stuff, like you can learn if you apply yourself, but it is hard to find people that like are passionate about engaging with people about something they're passionate about. So, that's kind of where it started. My buddy, Brian Mahar, who is now no longer with us, unfortunately, I went to high school with him and he opened a brewery called Block 3 in St. Jacobs. If you're ever out there, go there. Still wonderful people that handle that. But at that time I was in radio and he was opening this brewery and I was kind of spending some time with him, literally doing the friend thing and helping him build it and learning about the industry and learning a little bit about, what makes a craft brewery run. And then I got asked to kind of come in for an interview by, again, my predecessor from Indy 88 to come work at GLB. And I took that offer. I took that interview. I took that offer. And here we are.
And a nice plug to Brian. It was a big loss for the whole industry when he passed away. What's your vision for the brewery from an experience perspective as the brewery continues to evolve? I said it off the top that retail stores, especially taprooms, retail stores, continue to lead the growth in the craft brewing industry. We've seen a down year, or multiple years, in retail channel sales, licensee sales, but we continue to swing upwards and tick upwards on premise at our own facility. So as we grow, as we evolve, what do you see taking place at the brewery?
Yeah, so I think that for us, like, for me, the reason it's important to focus on the why. So
Simon Sinek.
Yeah, I'll draw a comparison for you or paint you a picture. So I always say to our staff, the biggest, most important days for us as a brewery are the holidays. And I say that because you get people in that have never been in there before and have never probably experienced, being in a place where they're treated more than just a sale out the door. These are beer store customers that I'm talking about, and we sell more lager than anything else on those days, but also what we sell is our space and our people. Because I do think we do something different. I'll equate the beer store customer to the Tim Hortons customer, and I'm guilty of it. I'm that person. I don't go to Tim Hortons because the coffee is great. I don't go there because the service is all that wonderful. I don't really go there because it's even that much cheaper than anywhere else. I go there because it's there, and I've been going there for years. And so, when you talk about like the psychology of a human, it's hard to break those deep-rooted tendencies and habits. So when we craft a space in Etobicoke, for me, it's all about focusing on accessibility and diversity. I think that it's one of those things where we're blessed with such like quality and diversity from a product perspective. Again, it's the reason why I'm here. It's the reason why I was able to learn a lot that first year, is because we had fine examples of such a diverse range of product. Ensuring that element of something for everyone and a seat for every person, kind of regardless of where they come from, should be an extension of those product offerings. So you take lesson cues from your lineup of beer. You have an accessible lineup of beer product, and you have hopefully an accessible environment, and you get a diverse customer base. I think that comes with the understanding that a lot of our heritage industry pals have been, bought out. It's important for us, given our scale, to kind of be ambassadors for what's good and right. And to me, that's just creating a space that we can all show up in.
Well, I'm going to hijack that for a second, because a lot of people out there in the market and the beer drinkers think we're a lot bigger than we are. We have that appearance of being large, and we're not. We're right in the middle of the pack. Mm-hmm. But we do. It's a good point. We do have a responsibility, I think, not only for the Etobicoke community, but for the entire craft industry in Ontario, because we've been around the longest, us in Wellington. To be that role model, to be that this is how we do things, this is how it could be done, this is bringing in new styles. Like, we never rest on our laurels, and we never rest on here are 6 core brands. We're always innovating, and the people make us that way. Our people make us that way. And that the community then tells us we want more of that. So it's Simba said the circle of life, or someone said that in The Lion King. But that's sometimes how I look at our retail store and tap room, is ebb and flow, but it's not even an ebb and flow. It's just a circle. It just keeps evolving and rolling and rolling.
I think it's important that from a business perspective, we also recognize the fact that we are lucky to have the freedom, given our share of the market and our size, to be able to kind of, explore different styles, take risks on our tap room and spend a little bit of money, because we haven't. We can do that. And so I just think it's important. I went to a diversity seminar at one point, and something really stuck with me. Something that was said was basically we are in craft beer. We inherently are cool. Don't discredit it.
Just ask us.
Don't discredit. Yeah. Don't discredit it. But don't treat that with respect. So everything that you do and however you move within the space, you have to treat that with respect. That people will look to who you are and say, "Oh my gosh, these guys are or people are where we want to be. These people are aspirational." So I think that's important not to discredit. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to switch lanes. Get it? And talk about home delivery.
Sure, yeah.
That was a Nick Densmore joke. Why do we do it and talk about its importance? Because I can tell you, and you know this better than anyone in the industry, we're still one of the only breweries doing it 7 days a week. And we're doing very well with it because of what you've created. So tell us all about the GLB home delivery platform.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to get into it, but
how much time you got, buddy? Give us the Coles notes. Actually, not the Coles notes, is in the Coles notes.
He's coming up.
The Coles notes, yeah, of home delivery.
Yeah, so I remember it was years ago. We all know that COVID was a thing, and it was kind of a thing, but it wasn't a real big thing until Tom Hanks got it. Was it Tom Hanks or was it Bill Murray?
No, man, it was Sophie Trudeau. That was the big thing that happened in Canada.
Tom Hanks.
Nah,
He's got it.
I think it was Sophie Trudeau when we were like, oh shit, she's got it. That became real. We were at Wellington doing a collab brew, and everyone was like, oh man, now it's coming to Canada. Like, it's here. It's on our doorstep.
I remember, well, as me selfishly as a basketball fan or sports fan, I remember it was the day after Rudy Gobert did his end of game presser, and he said he's not scared of COVID, and he went and touched all of the mics with his hands. And then the next day tested positive for COVID. But yeah, it wasn't, it was on the radar, but it wasn't, we can all agree that it did kind of, it really came up. And at that point, I think I get a little fuzzy here because the story got, my life got real hectic real quick, but there you go. I remember that you and I had been talking about me taking in a couple extra days to go somewhere, and there was maybe a bit of an expense budget negotiated, but basically I'd been working my butt off, and Troy said, get the heck out of here. So I planned this trip to Montreal. I'm driving to Montreal, I'm on my way, halfway there, listen to the radio. I did not know anything was going on. And Troy calls me and he says,
get your ass back to
No,
Troy.
he says, hey, have you left yet? And I said, yeah, dude, I'm like halfway there. What's going on? And he says, oh, you might want to turn around. And I was like, what? Wait a minute, what? Why? And he says, I don't think anything's going to be open. This COVID thing it's a big deal. And I was like, oh my God. So you're at that point where you're halfway there. I said, well, I'm probably just going to keep going. Troy says, at that time I had been working on home delivery and a bit of a pitch for Troy, not because of COVID. I'm not that smart. But just as an additional revenue stream. And Troy had kind of said at that point, any chance you got your laptop with you? And I remember I spent my negotiated vacation time away in between my Airbnb and the only craft brewery open, Cafe Benelux, shout out to you, in Montreal, kind of building and refining that home delivery platform. I was back in the office on Monday. We launched the online store on Tuesday. And by Friday, we were doing, I think, up and around 200, 250 deliveries.
Yeah, that first real day that we did it, the first real day that we knew, we got something here. Like, this is going to be a bigger thing than we thought. I think it was 78. We announced that we were doing it. The next day, we had 78 orders. 3 days after that.
And we thought that was big.
We thought it was big, and then we were into the 200s, and then by May, we were doing 450, 475 a day, just in Toronto, just in the downtown region, essentially. So tell us, though, we've continued to do it when everything's open back up, everything's kind of it has got back to normal. People are still working from home here and there, but give it to us. What does our home delivery look like today?
Yeah, so home delivery, I mean, again, you said it.
I think it took 4 days. I think we had nothing, and then 4 days later, Gabe, Nijme, you had just worked your asses off to make sure that was up and running.
We literally just it was, I don't know the movie to reference, but basically we're all just sitting there and it was like one click and we're like, okay, well,
here we go.
There it is. And then it was very anticlimactic. I remember us all just we had tried to market it or something, and we were like, okay, well, we're going to open the floodgates and just let it, and we just turned it on, and then we're like, now what?
Did we ever do anything for the first customer?
I don't think so, but they're probably
back.
But if we've done our job well, there's still customers to this day. Right. I also want to touch on before we get into where it is now, the value of having everybody at the time contribute. It was, I think I say this often with people in our company. Sometimes we are challenged by the big small company problems where so at that instance it was really awesome to have everybody come and contribute to the same cause. Somehow, arbitrarily, I kind of got put, as orchestrator of it. But at that time, it didn't matter what you did, what your job title was, how long you've been here, what your salary or wage was. If you could get in a car and help us all out, like, we're all one team. And it was a really awesome unifying opportunity for the brewery. And I think it came at a time where it was really needed. I think it really carried us through. It allowed us to retain the vast majority, 95% of our staff. And I think that energy, again, was so cool to see. It was the small company thing. So we needed that. But today, home delivery, 7 days a week. Next day delivery in Toronto, Mississauga, Scarborough. You order your beer before midnight. Somebody smiling shows up the next day. We do Hamilton, Oakville, Burlington once a week on Saturdays. And that rolls. The importance of home delivery.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said someone smiling shows up at your door the next day. So I've heard you talk about this multiple times. You were a guest speaker this year in 2023 at the OCB conference. Give us the real condensed Nick version of what that means to the customer, what it means for the company, because we pride ourselves on, it's not just a delivery, it's...
Yeah, so you just said an oxymoron, the condensed Nick version.
Yeah, that's why I said that. Yeah.
No, so for me, like, background in marketing, to me, the value is, of course, selling product and getting it to your door. But there is also an inherent marketing value of putting a brand ambassador for your company on the doorsteps of the consumers to interact with them. You think about peak COVID. You think about, again, people hadn't really talked to anyone probably the course of that day face to face, and now here they are greeted with somebody who's a representative for a brand they enjoy. Again, it's hard to measure that ripple effect, but I think that it's important. I think that it's one of the few reasons as to why we continue to do it ourselves and why we haven't relied on third parties like others. We really value that that peer-to-peer interaction. We really value and place a high credit on making sure, again, you manage that experience. That's my job. And so treating that interaction with respect will only yield big results for you.
Okay. Thank you. That was good. Now I'm gonna ask you something personal.
Sure.
And you have a minute to answer this before we go to break and hear from another sponsor. And then if you want, we're going to come back with rapid fire questions after that. But this one, minute to go.
Yeah.
Tell us about Vinyl Blocks.
Yeah. So as you know, I don't do well with keeping quiet, keeping unoccupied. So I have a side business that I run called Vinyl Blocks. I work with a number of vinyl record retailers in Toronto and GTA, and I manufacture and craft a product line of vinyl record storage and display pieces and products that are sold through retail on my online store, vinylblocksto.com.
What was that?
Vinyl Blocks TO. Vinyl, VINYL, Blocks, BLOX, TO is in Toronto.com. And yeah, it fills my time, much to my partner's dismay.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to go to break. And if you want to come back for some rapid fire questions?
If I can crack another beer, I'll be back here.
You can crack another beer.
Great. Thanks. Boss says it's okay.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
So you're here because you love beer, right? Nothing beats the right beer at the right time with the right group of people. And at GLB Etobicoke, we're all about making that experience happen day in and day out. Join us for our full slate of events on our cozy heated patio with Euchre Wednesdays, Trivia Thursdays, and live music Fridays, all hosted by our certified stellar taproom team in the heart of South Etobicoke. Join the community and tip back a frosty one while you're at it at 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard.
Okay, we're back with some rapid fire questions for Nick. Now, Nick, we said it, we talked about a condensed version. You have the tendency to give long answers.
I craft a dialogue.
You should see this guy's emails if he asks him what he had for breakfast today.
You want to know?
I don't want to know. That's not part of the question. So I'm going to ask you, I got 4 questions here. I'm going to ask you these and let's go. Best tap room you've ever visited?
Best tap room ever visited. Let's call it Treehouse.
Why?
Why? Because it was a marvel. A technological marvel. You go in there and you are greeted with tablets. You're greeted with 30 staff, and they're a seamless operation. They somehow have built a gigantic footprint just outside of Boston that has a landscaping bill that's probably higher than, you know, anyone's property taxes. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's somehow built on the limit of 3 beers per person, but you see people carrying out 7, 8 cases of beer. It's a marvel for someone like me who geeks out on like the tap room.
How's the customer service?
The customer service is organized. That's what I like to say.
Name something interesting about the taproom retail store that people might not know.
Okay, so great. If you go by the retail store today, you will still see the old sign from the old food truck that's above the retail store entrance called the Wavy Wall Craft Kitchen. The Wavy Wall Craft Kitchen was called the Wavy Wall Craft Kitchen because when I started at the brewery, in the retail store, there was a wavy brick wall that we wove its way through the space and out into the parking lot. We've since had to demolish that wall after a snowplow drove into it, I believe.
It wasn't a snowplow, no. It was an 18-wheeler.
An 18-wheeler drove into it, we put a food truck in the way. So that's why it's called the Wavy Wall.
I know this is rapid fire, but I got to hijack this. Do you remember when the Adamson barbecue fiasco was happening on our street?
Heck yeah, brother.
And we had so many angry people come to our place that were trying to get into our establishment to whether use the washroom or just angry people that were going down to the rally.
Sure.
And every time we said, no, we're not letting anyone in, everyone said, they took out their phone and took a picture of the Wavy Wall and said, I'm reporting you to the Better Business Bureau. What is this place? The Wavy Wall Craft Kitchen? Yes, it is. So
it was again in my time here. I mean, we could wax on about it for hours and hours. We don't have, but again, what a wild time.
what a very wild time. What are you drinking these days? Other than Burst?
Yeah, I brought Burst today, but generally I drink a lot of. I actually drink a lot of vodka soda, and I drink a lot of Great Lakes Lager. I think it's a dreaming of summer situation. It's I don't know. I think the whole industry is trending lighter and easier drinking, so I'm on that wave.
Another question that's not part of the rapid fire, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Perfect.
Would you drink a nice 4% light lager with lime?
Lime isn't really my thing.
Oh, okay. I was getting excited because that might be coming to Great Lakes this summer.
That's too bad.
Best place to grab lunch in South Etobicoke.
This is my shameless plug. We're on episode 4, but I still think we can get a sponsorship. So if you monitor, Troy, you're baiting me here. If you monitor my weekly lunch habits, you realize that I most frequent our next door neighbors.
Nick doesn't eat vegetables.
You may have heard of the small local establishment. It's right nestled just south of the Queensway there on Queen Elizabeth Boulevard, right next door to Great Lakes Brewery. It's called Costco. You go in there, a lovely cafeteria staff will present you with a patented Nick Densmore combo, which is a slice of pizza, a hot dog, and a fresh frosty fountain beverage for less than $6. In this economy, you can't say no. Also, another plug for this place. 2 weeks ago, I was by and I said hi to the newest Toronto Raptor, Ochai Agbaji. So you know it's hip. He's there. It's a membership-only club. I don't know what else you need to sell.
I think we're going to turn down a Costco sponsorship.
Costco, send me a membership, and I'll be sweet with you.
Well, Nick, that was enlightening. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the complimentary Burst. I hope every listener out there got a little perspective of what the retail store and taproom is like in the experience, the setting that Nick and staff have set up there. So appreciate you taking the time to come over and drink some free beer.
Yeah, for sure. If you anyone out there in the grand webverse wants to pick my brain on stuff, you can always send me an email. You can find that on the website. I really appreciate coming by and chatting. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's now time to hear from our man in the lab, Cole Raiskums, and another edition of his Cole's Notes. Today, Cole's going to be talking to you about adjuncts.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Cole's Note segment. Today, we're going to be learning about adjuncts. Firstly, what are adjuncts? By definition, they are ingredients added to beer that are not a part of the essential ingredients, which are water, barley, yeast, and hops. Alternative grains such as wheat and oats, as well as other sugar sources like corn and rice, fall into the adjunct category. Things like coffee, vanilla, fruit, and spices are also considered adjuncts. Now, why is it important to differentiate between essential ingredients and adjuncts? Many believe this distinction came from Reinheitsgebot, the German purity law adopted in Bavaria in 1516. This law stated that only water, hops, and barley, and later yeast, could be used to make beer. The believed purpose of this law was to prevent competition between brewers and bakers over other grains such as wheat and rye, and to keep the sourced ingredients local to Bavaria. It was also a bit religiously driven in preventing the use of plants commonly used in pagan rituals, which were popular adjuncts at the time. The purity law has seen many iterations since its first conception, but now is primarily used as a marketing stratagem to highlight traditional routes in brewing. So if adjuncts aren't essential to the brewing process, then why do we add them? If it weren't for adjuncts, we wouldn't have beers like our Hanlon's Point Coconut Coffee Stout, our Dos Llaves Corn Lager, or our PDA Wit Beer with hibiscus and fruit. Adjuncts open up so many opportunities to make new and unique flavors, and variety is the spice of life. Who knew that science could taste so good?
I saw what you are. I heard what you did there. The spice of life. I get it. Adjunct. Cool. If you had to pick just one adjunct to use in brewing for the rest of your life, just one, what would it be? What would you go with?
I personally would choose basil, specifically Thai basil.
Basil?
Really good tasting.
Yeah?
Basil, yes.
And what kind of beer would you use it in?
You could do cool things with IPAs. Like I've done a really cool cask with like a IPA using Belma, which is like more of a berry forward hop. You get some like really kind of like nice flavor mixture going on there.
And when are we going to brew that at the brewery? I think you should start poking the bear.
I'll talk to Mike right after this.
Sounds good. Thanks, Cole.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Cheers.
Emmett works hard on our canning line. He spends his day making sure all our delicious GLB beer is perfectly packaged and fresh as possible when it arrives in your hand. When his shift is done, Emmett ends his day in the GLB taproom, enjoying his all-time favorite beer, Great Lakes Stout. And why wouldn't he? Great Lakes Stout is dark, smooth, dry, and sessionable. Notes of chocolate and coffee are delivered through a light body and creamy finish that feels like winning a rubber ducky race at the end of a hard day's work.
I love it.
Great Lakes Stout, available at the brewery, GLB Brewpub, and online shop. Be like Emmett. Love your stout.
And here we are. It's time for Brewpub Corner, and we have Emma Worthy, the GM of the Great Lakes Brewpub, on the line. Emma, how's it going?
Hi guys, great. How are you doing?
Spectacular, thanks. Thanks to Nick Densmore, who was the guest on the show. I think I'm into my third beer just to get through it.
Thanks for that. Cool.
Yeah, you can thank me for that. You're welcome.
So Emma, what's happening down at the Brewpub? But actually, before I say this, Emma, I got to say one thing before I ask you the question. Before you answer, the lobster roll that I had last week was just dynamite. So I know I told you, and I know I told the staff, but how long is that going to be around? Is that gone as of this week?
It's gone, yeah. It was a very short feature. We successfully ran it over St. Patrick's weekend, and it was super popular. So we've actually just sold out today. So we'll be launching a new sandwich feature this week.
I cannot believe how good it was. And
yeah, unbelievable.
We do have some news to share with folks that we have a new chef.
We do. Krshna, yeah, she's been with us since the start, since the Brewpub opened in May of 2022. She initially started as a prep chef. She's super talented, really like just an expert in all different varieties of culinary. Yeah, she's awesome. She's bringing a ton of knowledge. She's owned her own restaurant before. The team is 100% behind us, so we're all super excited to have her on board.
And I believe she was the creator of the best ever sandwich I've had in my life. It was that egg sandwich, the egg McMuffin thing that we had months ago. It was the best thing I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, you haven't stopped talking about that.
No, it was amazing. I think we should put it on the menu for full time. Yeah, congratulations to Krshna. She is an amazing human being, and it's great that, again, Nick and I were talking about earlier in the episode about how we are very supportive of supporting growth at Great Lakes. So recognizing the people that are amazing at their jobs and putting them into positions that they want to be in. So it's a big congrats to Krshna.
Yeah, I feel the same. I'm thrilled that she was able to take on the position and continue to grow with GLB.
And we have a beer dinner coming up. We've talked about it a couple times on the show, but it's coming up. It's this week. It's on Thursday. How many spots do we have left?
So super limited. I think we have less than 10 spots left. They're selling like crazy. The meal has been released online, so there's 4 pairings. We're doing a flight with one of our pairings this time around, so check us out online, grab a ticket while you can. We'll be running it every month, but you want to get into this one. It's very a great meal.
Well, I've seen and heard there's bone marrow on the menu.
Yeah.
And so
very fancy.
Myself and our man in the lab, Cole Raiskums, we're gonna be leading the pairing and the tasting, telling stories about the brewery. Cole's gonna be walking through the beer pairings, and it's gonna be a fun night. So tickets are only $50, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
Nice.
It's $50. You can buy them and follow the link on our website or our socials. I would act fast because they're selling. So we're very excited to have you on board, Troy.
Oh, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good time. What else is going on at the brewery? Or sorry, the brew pub.
Yeah, we have a good lineup. Like every week we have industry deals on Monday nights. That's for anyone within the hospitality industry. Just tell us where you work. It's a $20 beer and a burger, $5 pints, $5 shots. Oh, I stand corrected. It's $10 for a beer and a burger.
$10 for a beer and a burger.
Yeah. Wednesday we have trivia. As always, it's free to play. We do $15 Detroit pizzas and $5 lagers. It's always fun. Simon keeps you on your toes. The Thursday, as I mentioned, we've got the Brewers dinner, super limited tickets. Friday, we have live music with Good Group. Thanks for coming. So our live music nights are filling up
Good
really
Group,
fast.
thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Ex GLB Taproom employee Justin Sullivan.
Yeah, we're stoked to have him.
There you go.
And Emma, I know we just talked about it and finalized, but I hear our Toronto Blue Jays special is coming back for the 2024 season.
It is, if you want a sneaky peek at it. Yeah, we have the burger and a beer deal for every home game. Just come in and let us know that you're heading to the game or watching the game, and we'll give you that deal.
So we play every single Blue Jay game at the Brewpub, and if you walk in on a home game and you're ordering a beer or a pint, fries and a burger, $20 if you let your server know that you're there for the Blue Jays home opener. The Blue Jays home game. The home opener is coming. Yes.
Yes, it is. That's the week after. Well,
also,
obviously, some of us are very excited about it.
I'm very excited about it, yes.
We got to welcome our Mimico's own Dalton Varsho.
Dalton Varsho? What are you talking about? Joey Votto.
Joey Votto.
Man,
Sorry,
come
Joey
on.
Votto.
Nick just lost. Nick just lost his Toronto Blue Jays.
But for every, can we do something for every Joey Votto home run? Maybe I'm putting my pin in for that.
Oh, that's a good. Yes, we will talk about it. We'll take that offline and talk about that.
Let's discuss.
So thanks, Emma. We appreciate you coming on and telling us a little bit about what's going on down at the Brewpub at 11 Lower Jarvis.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Good to chat with you guys.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Around the industry.
So the big news for around the industry in the last couple of weeks has been the federal government announcing a 2% increase in the escalator instead of the 4.7% that was slated to happen April 1st, and the 50% reduction in fees for breweries 0 to 15,000 hectoliters in size. That is good news. It's a not finally, but it is a win for our industry. It's a good start, and a lot of the thanks has to go to our local MP right here in Etobicoke Lakeshore, Jamie Maloney, or James Maloney. He has been instrumental over the last number of years in working with breweries like Great Lakes to roll this out. We need modernization on the federal excise tax, and MP Maloney has been right there in our corner fighting with us every step of the way. I can remember 2 years ago, we met at Great Lakes and we laid out the documents and we said, something's got to give here, man. And to his credit, he's had us down to Ottawa a number of times, talked to his colleagues. He's done a great job for this craft beer industry right across, not just on Ontario. He was the chair of the Ontario caucus. But he's really taken this on. This was his big project, and we just a big thank you to MP Jamie Maloney for doing everything he did for craft beer. He understands, and we understand. This is just the start. We need a lot more support from the federal government on federal excise tax and the modernization. And we do know that, and we hope that this will be the catalyst for the provincial government to do some modernization to help us with that 9-cent can tax that we pay every time we put a beer into a can, and just the basic beer tax and the volume tax. We need to get that modernized and fixed up, and we hope this is the catalyst. So a big thanks to Jamie and all the staff in his office that have worked so hard with us and the Coalition of Canadian Independent Craft Breweries over the years, and that money that's saved will go back into reinvesting into our tap room and retail store, as we had Nick on here today. So it's a good win for craft breweries. Over to the beer store. There's an article coming out that came out in the CBC, and the beer store has sent a letter out to bars and restaurants that use their services that effective April 1st, all establishments that place beer store orders has to be $1,500 or more in order for the beer store to deliver without applying a $175 fee. So the moral of the story is support your local craft breweries, contact your local and say, hey, do you have a lager that I could get instead of that multinational mass-produced lager that I'm now going to be charged $175 in addition to my delivery? So go out and talk to a local craft brewery and see if they can help you out. At Great Lakes, recent releases, we did a series of nitro cans. Nitro beers are stout, which you can only get on draft, nitrogenized, same with Pompous Ass. We put 2 of them in cans. Nick, if you're still around here, yeah, Nick's still over here.
I'm
Nick,
awake.
Do we have any on at the store still? We sold out of Pompous Ass?
Yeah, we sold out of Pompous real quick. We have limited cans of the stout available at both physical locations, so the Brewpub or the Etobicoke location, but they are sold out online.
And 7 Minutes Fast. What about 7 Minutes Fast?
7 Minutes Fast is available online and in both stores for
Wonderful.
the next foreseeable future.
I think that's the best one that we did. So get that. That's a collaboration with The Only Cafe.
Get it fast.
We also have Zwei Ziegen. It's a Doppelbock. It was just released this week or last week. And No Chance with Miranda Saison. It's a Farmhouse Saison and MacGuffin Pale Ale. So those have hit the stores. So get those nice and fresh. Coming up on Good Friday is the GLB Hop and Shop, 20 plus vendors. Sir Hops a Lot. The bunny is going to be there to take pictures with the kids. We'll have live music and a lot of activities. Runs from 12 to 5, so be there on Good Friday. And last but not least, and around the industry, but it does pertain to Great Lakes, stay tuned for information on an expanded home delivery model. Ooh. And that's it for Around the Industry this week. That's it. That's all, folks. Episode 3 has moved from the mash tun to the fermenters. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation with Nick Densmore and hope that you'll be able to experience our tap room one day soon. Today's episode was fueled by cans of our crushable Canuck Pale Ale, at least it was for me, which you can find all over Ontario wherever great beer is sold. You can visit the brewery at 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard in Etobicoke or grab some delicious eats and fresh pours at our Brewpub at 11 Lower Jarvis Street. We hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks when we drop a new episode. We'll be talking about We Don't Know Yet, so you'll have to stay tuned on our social media for that. If you have any content that you'd love to hear us discuss on the show or just want to tell us what you're drinking, drop us a line at podcast@greatlakesbeer.com. Until next time, please remember to keep tipping your glass of fresh GLB in the right direction. Supporting local never tasted so good.
To learn more about what's happening at Great Lakes Brewery, visit greatlakesbeer.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter or follow Great Lakes Beer on your favorite social media platforms.